We won't eat up any more of your time. I know I want to jump in real quick and say I know Ty is so excited to do this today. As we had this conversation and said, Ty, I think it might make sense to have Ty do these because it'd be much more tied to kind of the cadence of some of the things that Ty presents in content. And he can kind of do it the same way. And Rich immediately said, "Yeah, that'd be awesome if Ty wants to do it." And Ty looked around the room like, "Seriously, is this what I'm supposed to be doing now?" Like, yeah, welcome to it. So he wrote me in yesterday at the very end of our leadership call and says, "Oh, hey, can you be on the call?" I said, "The call? What call's this?" He says, "Oh, never mind. You just have to talk about a few things."
Yeah, it was a responsibility that was foisted upon me gladly.
Yeah. Yeah. So here we are, both of us nascent in this, and hoping that we have some relevant information to share that makes this a worthwhile use of an hour on your Friday.
Exactly. Just before we do get started, anyone that has been to IC but hasn't attended a workshop, we just had two people that had to drop out of our upcoming workshop in February in Florida. So if anybody is interested in attending, just ping me after the call and we can get that going.
Yeah, and for those people on either the bucket that have attended and have eligibility, or for those who have not attended an IC, that is really one of our primary driving metrics is unique ICs because for us to see success, those individuals that attend an IC are just 10x as likely to be able to get a deal done. For those folks who don't, oftentimes that's an indicator that they're just not engaged in the process. But once you do attend, if you take the next step to actually go to an offsite workshop, I mean, again, you're talking about such a huge jump in ratio of those who will close on businesses. And I have not been involved in a workshop, an offsite AE workshop yet, where people haven't said, that in and of itself was worth the cost of the entire program because there's so much information that gets gleaned. The group gets really tight. They're just great things. And speaking, there's Michael. Michael has been at one of these. He knows. So it's well worth attending.
Yeah, I think that
Echoing that. Awesome.
Yeah.
there's a statistic that we tracked. It was like 98% of the people who ended up closing a business with Acquira attended a workshop or something like that. It was, it's, there's definitely a correlation between attending a workshop and closing on a business.
Yeah,
And,
we
and
might even say it's causation at this point.
Yeah.
to add to the people that kept in touch with afterwards and the things that continue to learn working with some of these individuals has also been amazing. So
Very cool. So yeah, I guess we're still figuring out the format a little bit, so I'm open to any feedback, but my idea with this was just to bring someone on from Acquira's team or a general expert and do a bit of an interview with them and then open it up to the floor to ask questions. I thought Brian, since he's the president of Acquira, would be a good first person to bring on to talk about, Acquira's vision, what we've got planned for 2024. We just had our leadership meeting in Phoenix where we set a bunch of new goals for the year and everything, and that would be pretty beneficial for you guys. So, Brian, if you wouldn't mind, could you just sort of talk a bit about Acquira's plans for the year ahead?
Yeah, growth for us, this is our business that we're involved in, and we really want to try to get as many people into the program as possible. We're talking about ways we might want to modify the accelerator program itself when we get down to say Q3 and Q4 to try to get more folks in. I think many of you might understand that we have an Accelerator Plus program that we put together here at the end of this last spring. And it was kind of there to solve the problem for people that had the capital, but not necessarily the time to go out and search for and find a business. That's been a very successful program for us. So we're constantly trying to find ways to iterate what we do to find more effective ways to get people into the ETA life cycle. I know for the biggest drivers for us this year, we really are going to be concentrating on our off-market sourcing, or what we call our seller funnel. This is something that we had done in the past. We'd attempted to do a number of different ways, but it's difficult. It's complex. There are a lot of moving pieces to it. And this last summer, we were able to couple up with a team, a group that had been doing this in some capacity, along with some kind of direct consulting for business owners over the last 7 or 8 years. They're very good at it, and we joined a partnership where we're more or less going to be absorbing this group to really help us create this off-market funnel where our anticipation is that, or our goal anyway, is to end up with somewhere north of 120 countersigned LOIs in 2024, with probably 2/3 of those coming through the off-market funnel, which, an explanation or a description of that is just us trying to get in touch with business owners who have not listed businesses, as the simple definition, trying to find those folks who may be interested, may have considered it, but haven't moved forward with it. I don't think I have to tell this group the potential advantages to that type of seller. You're the only person at the table, right? There are also some inherent disadvantages with that, and those are a lot of the things that we're trying to make sure we can take care of to make this an effective way to move forward. But a huge bump for us. We have an assumption that we'll exhaust our capital fund here by the end of 2024. We'll open up a new fund. And the hope is that next fund that we open up will not only be larger, the current fund is a smaller $10 million fund, but will also expand the thesis of the types of businesses that we're going to take on. I know I've been a big proponent of, if it's a strong business, we want to support you in pursuing that acquisition. That doesn't necessarily mean we would be involved in an equity participation. But my example is, if I've got a third generation family from the Philippines who's been doing nail salons, for 60 years, and they found a nail salon that spits out $1 million in SDE and seems to be the best one in the city, why in the world would we step in front of that and say we don't like that type of business, right? That's great for that AE. Doesn't mean we want to invest in it necessarily, but we definitely want to be supportive of that type of acquisition. So, those are kind of the biggest things for us, is really this concentration on the seller funnel, a dramatic increase in LOI, and probably the opening of the next capital fund, which will be more expansive, not only in the size of it, but also in the types of deals that we'll take on.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a hand in building it. Excuse me, building out that seller funnel, and it's pretty cool. Basically, we have a valuation and SEO and Google Ads all pointing to a valuation calculator for people that are interested in selling their business. So they can come in and see what their business is worth, and that leads to a phone call with us, and eventually we'll be able to connect those people with AEs. Those businesses fit their investment criteria. So they're motivated sellers in a lot of cases, when they're not like completely nuts and all that
Yeah, you
stuff.
get all types, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the things that I think everybody in this call understands Acquira is very good at. You all entered, or the overwhelming majority entered, through the same path. I mean, Ty spoke to you in your dreams, right? Just over and over, the guy was there on your email, and anything you saw, it was Ty. We do a nice job on the front end, and as we transition that to the seller side, that lead magnet really is valuation. And as those folks come in through the valuation model, we're able to begin to initiate those conversations. Many of these folks will set calls up, much like most of you did, and then we'll reach out to those that we'd like to have conversations with that didn't set up calls. And so far, we really have kind of turned it on in December to kind of play with the underpinnings of it. We've had some great successes. I think actually, have we got 2 countersigned LOIs so far just off of that through December activity?
Yeah.
And I think we'll see another, I think we have another 1 or 2 that will happen. One that's already happened, I think another one that is happening in January. And the assumption is that we will be turning it on completely by the end of this month. When I say completely, that's not at the rate that it will be, but it's just that we won't be turning it off and on and off and on as we start to kind of toy with it. I think we've got the underpinnings taken care of right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So given Brian the company's goals for the year, maybe you touched on this a bit already, but could you sort of elaborate on how that might impact the people that are currently in our accelerator program?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we, like I say, the seller funnel that we do want to extend is the ability to do this, to have these types of deals that are available to you. Now, part of the issue for us when we have taken on this partnership is this is not an inexpensive process for us. I mean, we spend a lot of money to do this, and there's a lot of effort that goes into it. So, we developed a couple different ways to come into it. One is that we encourage people um, to enter into the Accelerator Plus program. And I don't know that we necessarily need to get into that. If you don't know what that is, you can definitely reach out to Rich, who can help you on that. I don't know. That's probably the best route right now, I would say. Although
Yeah.
you might be able to talk to Steve Shaw, but Rich, that everybody's more or less in communication with. Reach out to him and get an understanding what the Accelerator Plus program is. That's something that we move people towards where we're actually going to get those deals under LOI. The other is if we've identified something and we've got some AEs that may match and you don't have the funds to get into that on the front, we're trying to develop a success fee model, which is basically being paid kind of a buy-side commission at close so that we can offset our expenses in doing that. One of the things that we will do, it's part of the Accelerator Plus agreement, and it will be part of the success agreement, is there is a requirement to do the TAS or the transaction advisory services component, which we in the past referred to as coaching. Rich wanted to kind of expand that definition out because he didn't feel coaching was necessarily all encompassing for what they do, and I agreed. But we do this specifically with the off-market funnel because these are very delicate deals oftentimes. And if we get into a situation where somebody came on board and we introduced two people and then we just let them go off on their merry way, we've had experience in the past where those don't end well. You've got an AE who's very excited to get this deal going, and you've got a seller who we got in touch who said, yeah, I think maybe I would like to sell my business. And you put those two people in a room, and pretty soon that seller's like, holy crap, this is not what I'm interested in at all. I've been fire hosed. I'm way overwhelmed. So there's a bit of a middle ground, and that's one of the reasons that we require TAS is to be there to help facilitate that relationship and that cadence of how we move forward with it, because you do have to be a little gentler in the nature of proceeding with those deals. That's something that we'll credit back against any kind of success fee or commission in the end. We just want to make sure that it's something that you actually are involved in going forward. You'll pay for it up front. We'll credit it at the end. If that makes sense.
Plus,
But
you get to work with Rich a little more closely.
yeah, you'll work with Rich, and that's a big piece for us in scale. We're going to be bringing on more transaction advisors. Rich is spread thin. We've got Chip Allen, who has joined us here last month and is kind of moving more towards the success coach side of it, which is there to take more kind of the frontline calls, helping people through training, helping people through the initial Aquira process, trying to get them to ICs, trying to get engagement. He'll move into a full transaction advisor services rep here sometime, probably, hopefully by the end of Q1. But we'll be looking to bring on probably 4 or 5 new Rich clones in the next 6 months. Definitely another 2 in the next 3. That's a place we've identified where we're going to need help if we're going to grow. And you guys know that, right? I mean, it's you really want to have access to somebody. But again, we also do walk the fine line. You've got some people that are very good about respecting Rich's time, I guess is the best way to say it. And then there are some people who just, it's a daily thing and there's only so much bandwidth, right? So you have to be able to set some boundaries as well too. That's why for anybody who was on kind of earlier when I acknowledged James Walbridge, the Slack channel that we've got more and more participants in that, more and more AEs. It's nice to see that organic, you know, growth of the community in there. That's huge because everybody's got their experience of what's going on. We started this conversation as people were coming and talking to Gloria. I've been watching Gloria's deal here for the last, geez, what has it been? 9 months? How long has it been now?
Almost a year.
Is it almost a year now? And talk about the highs and lows. I mean, this thing was done. It was great. It was off. It's dead. So having the AEs communicate back and forth is a huge help, and it's wonderful to see that. We do know that we're going to need some help internally on it. So the other things that we're looking at is we're probably going to have a faster cadence of offsite workshops, like I opened up with again. The importance of getting those cannot be overstated. It's really important for people to experience that. It really helps to move you forward. I think that, again, transaction advisory services is going to get a little more specific around creating some of the roadmaps on how these things, how the process works, the expectations for you. That's actually a piece that I wrote out for Rich just a week or so ago, is specifically expectations and accountability for AEs. And this really kind of got geared towards our Accelerator Plus AEs, because I think we did a little bit of a disservice early on in not accurately communicating the expectations. I think I can think of one transaction right now that may fall apart simply because we weren't clear enough in relaying expectations that this is your deal. This is your name on the LOI. And I think the AE leaned on us too much to lead everything. And in the end, we didn't sign a contract with the seller. The seller doesn't want to talk to us. The broker doesn't care to talk to us. So making sure that everybody understands where you sit in this journey and whose responsibility it is to carry this. You're the quarterback, you lead this. We're the rest of the team to help with it. But we're going to be fleshing out a lot more of that going forward. Again, it's scale for us this year. How many deals did we get done last year, Ty?
19, I want to say.
So to move to something where we're hoping to see 120 plus countersigned LOIs, hoping to see something like maybe 60 to 70% close rate on those, that's still a 4-5x increase. So we've got a lot of things that we're looking to do for scale this year. So growing pains, obviously we will experience those in places. So we're always interested in feedback. I'm interested in feedback. I want to know the types of things that we can do to try to add value to this. But I think one of the things when I say that, I really should kind of hit on our bigger goals, and this might be a good time to say this right now. To what we see with the larger ecosystem for Aquira in moving forward is we are really looking for partners. And when we talked about ways to increase the reach of the accelerator program when we get towards, say, Q4, we were talking about ways where we might be able to change the programs in large ways to where it was maybe much less expensive, much more self-guided, much more community-driven, much more inclusive, where we were bringing on, instead of 10 AEs a month, maybe 100 AEs a month. And all kind of from the standpoint to identify those top performers, the people that we want to partner with that actually are serious about doing this. Because what we see in the future is Aquira being part of a larger entity. And actually, Hayden Miyamoto, who is the CEO of Aquira, is actively working right now on an entity called Empower, which is going to be the creation of, in essence, a holding company. And this company is going to be looking to purchase businesses from Aquira AEs who have successfully purchased and integrated businesses and choose to sell back for some immediate arbitrage. But it's not just to sell back for arbitrage, it's to be part of the greater ecosystem. What that model would really look like for us is when we identify those great AEs who have purchased a business, and this is on the Empower side, who have purchased a business, who have integrated that business, who have moved it forward into something that's management run, and let's be honest, significantly de-risked it for Empower. We're looking to purchase that thing at a premium to you. So there's the immediate arbitrage, and then to engage you as the CEO of that business with the hope that you will begin to identify additional businesses to purchase in your expanded metro area. Perhaps that's the state of Texas. Perhaps it's larger than that. Someday, perhaps it's smaller. What that is, we don't yet know. And then you'll be in charge of that small portfolio with bonuses off of EBITDA, et cetera. What we want to do with this greater vision is we are very interested in the ESOP model, the employee stock ownership model. And what we would like to see is the ability to create a large roll-up where we eventually exit to the employees. As opposed to creating some type of roll-up in the plumbing space where the idea is to gain 20 businesses and amass an EBITDA of $40 million or $50 million and then to sell it for somebody at a 15x multiple and then go retire. What we'd rather do is create 1 million employee owners, right? What we'd rather do is exit to the ESOP, exit to every one of the employees involved in those businesses to experience that shared level of resources and the scale that comes with a roll-up across things like HR and finance and things of that nature. But in the end, be able to leverage that into how do we exit with the best alignment. And for those businesses to have employee ownership to us speaks to that alignment. We feel that simple things like being able to retain quality employees and talent, that will be much easier to recruit. Talent will be much easier. When you get into things like the taxation issues and the ability to be much more profitable through that structure, that's a whole different arena, but those are very real implications of that type of model. And in the end, that's what we're really interested in creating. As an aside, that's really what Hayden's working on right now. And what we see Aquira doing is identifying those AEs who would most likely be a part of that model, and then eventually probably being that front-end M&A component for identifying deal flow and using this off-market type of model to be able to be very good at finding these types of deals so that we're bringing them to the Empower model. That's what Acquire will eventually do. So that's kind of the big, say, 5-year picture of what Acquire is looking to do as part of something larger. And I don't necessarily get too far into that because that's not Acquire in and of itself, and that doesn't necessarily evolve or involve AEs at this moment. But it may. There may be AEs that are involved in this right now that will purchase a business and may have an opportunity to exit to Empower down the road. One of the first individuals in that tranche right now looks like it will be Kevin. Why am I spacing Kevin's last name now?
Kevin Cooper.
Kevin Cooper, yeah, that purchased a plumbing company last June, I think it is.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to close this thing probably, he may have a year on this thing when it's said and done, but he's done a phenomenal job of integrating this company. I'm really, really done well with it. He'd be a great person to have on to talk about this. Boy, he sent me an email the other day of, here's what's happened here in the fourth quarter of last year, here's the financials, and here's what we're looking at. And it's just, it was so tremendous to see everything that he had spelled out there, everything that he'd done. I mean, the guy's just killing it. And he's just absolutely engaged in being an entrepreneur and being an owner of this business. But he's going to have an opportunity to sell that business back to Empower and be part of that larger ecosystem. He's excited about that. That's the bigger wheel for us, right? So that you guys kind of get an idea of what this is. So Aquira, that's why we talk about how can we find ways to bring more people into this ecosystem? How can we massage it so that it's probably very different than it is today, but we just have a greater reach. We can touch more individuals and identify more of those top performers that we want to bring in. That's a huge goal for us this year. And we don't know what that
Yeah.
looks like yet, right? We kind of put that off to Q4, kind of like we'll talk about that maybe this summer once somebody has a dream and wakes up and says, I've got it. This is what it looks like. We're not quite sure what that looks like yet. And
Chuck, did you have
hey,
a question?
Chuck Dockmo, yes. You know what? As a guy who's actively involved in the off-market funnel, who can tell you what it's like to be dealing with a seller with no broker.
Yeah, I'll say that it's nice to not have to go through a broker. I just wanted to say I'm really excited to hear that, Brian. Just the vision with the ESOP as kind of longer term play. I talked to Hayden quite a bit about that last October in Denver. Really exciting. Maybe my question for the exit to Empower is: does that require that you have already implemented ACE, or have taken funds from the funds or investment from the fund, or if I totally self fund my deal and I implement traction or like whatever ACE or not, or just kind of curious what kind of stipulations are around that exit, because I'm building out my integration plan right now, just on my own before, and I've been in conversation also with Doug around ACE, and kind of because my deal's on the smaller end of the spectrum, just like how do I afford integration service, like maybe just for my size, because from a cash flow standpoint, I'm just really cautious right now in year one as I approach closing, like just wanting to make sure I don't overspend or get myself in a bind. So
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
if you there's multiple questions wrapped into that, but
No,
I'm curious your
that's
thoughts.
fine.
If you can
I
share
think
more.
I think I can juggle those enough.
And Brian knows your business intimately.
Yeah. I do know this business. This is one of those that I'd been talking with the seller for, geez, quite a while, maybe 6 months or so before we introduced it to Chuck. And I loved this business. I was just thinking, boy, if I wanted to move to Colorado Springs, this might be something I'd personally be interested in. If it's got a wonderful legacy. If you're interested, you should reach out to Chuck and ask about it. It's pretty interesting. One of the things I'll hit on real quick is the ability to fund ACE, just as a side note. This was a side project I took on here a little while ago just to identify financing solutions for it, because, the initial assumption was, well, we'll pay for it out of capital, we'll pay for it out of closing, but, cash flow is something we really want to protect, right? And Chuck's well aware of that. We're all aware of that. So we are trying to find some financing solutions to it, because I really do view ACE as insurance. That's kind of the basis of why we created this. Is it's insurance to get you over the hump. Now, it's $100,000. Is that expensive insurance for your $3 million investment where you tied your house up? I don't know. I mean, can you do it on your own? Maybe. So we do want to find ways to be able to offer some financing solutions to it. Now, is ACE required, or is capital fund participation required to be involved in some type of exit to Empower? No. Would we see maybe changing that down the road? Perhaps. I mean, let's be blunt, everybody. This is a business. We're looking to try to make money. Do we want to do it as a win-win? Absolutely. And I hope everybody experiences that in working with us. I mean, we really are interested in win-win, and we're going to do everything we can to try to present that and to perform on that. But we're also looking for ways that make sense for us. How can we make a little more money on this so that we can get better systems, better people, better scale, faster, like Steve Austin, faster, stronger, as quick as we can, right? We want that. So at this point, no, that isn't something that needs to be there. What we're more interested in is, are you a partner? Are you an AE we want to partner with, right? Because that's really what you become. You're going to be a CEO of a small satellite roll-up, in essence, right? Of a micro roll-up within the larger operation. So do we want to work with you? Are we well aligned? That would be a primary. The asset itself, if we purchase the business, is it management run? That's a huge thing, right? Because that's the whole point we try to get to with ACE, is that's not what you're going to have when you're done with ACE, but you're going to be on your way to doing that. It's getting you over the hump and past the things that might be deal killers, business killers early on, and moving you towards that ability to become management run. Can you do it within a year? You know what? Ask Kevin Cooper. I certainly think you can. So it's not a requirement. It's just that we want strong AEs and strong businesses that have been integrated and are management run. That is de-risked for us. I mean, picture what we're doing. Picture you sitting at the helm of that entity and able to see this acquisition 18 months ago and said, that's a good business. That's a good business. Due diligence wise, we like it. And now, Gloria's owned this thing for the last 18 months, and we've seen what she's done, and we know that this thing's been de-risked because she's got a management team in place, and we see some top line, some bottom line growth, all these things that kind of come with it. I mean, that's pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, isn't that what everybody wants? Now you've got a deal you've seen for a couple of years, and now you buy it. So is that an advantage for us? Yeah. Does that answer enough of that, Chuck?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brian.
I don't have my chats open there, but it looks like there's a few questions on there.
Ryan asked if you could elaborate a bit on the future of the Acquire investment funds. Is it planned for the funds to be part of the long-term AE acquisition strategy? And then we'll get to James.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is one of those things where I can be pretty black and white when I look at things and what I see, what I would like to see down the road. And there's a part of me that have said, I'd like to get to a situation to where the off-market funnel is producing significant deal flow, and we're able to reach out to individuals in our ecosystem and say, hey, this is what we have, this is where it's at, who's interested, and have 10 hand raises and quickly get to the person who's just ready to go. I mean, if the first person says, I'm going to say, hey, who's next? I don't want to spend a lot of time doing that. I want good alignment. I want somebody who's ready to go and understands what's happening. And part of that to us is saying perhaps involvement in the capital fund is required on those deals. If we like the deal, then it's just required as part of the structure. Now, again, that second person in line is going to say, yeah, but I just want to do it all myself. The response might be, no, we're either involved or it's on to the next person. I mean, we're not going to not be involved in it. And some of the reason for that is it's profitable for us, one, right? We wouldn't do it if it wasn't. This is not altruistic. I mean, is it helpful for you? Absolutely. We have risk, you bet, but we also have upside to it, right? So that's important for us. So having it be a part of what we do as a general rule is something we've discussed. So in the future, what we see the capital fund being is, one, larger, two, more inclusive. Like I talked about, things that are outside of what the current scope is. We identified that as the things we preach: recession resilience, a lot of baby boomers that own them, low-hanging fruit, things that you can change quickly. There's a lot of great attributes to these types of businesses. Are those the only types of businesses we'd be involved in? No. Like I said earlier, I've got a deal right now that came to me that we're going to get over to an AE that's a steel fabricating business. They do a lot of architectural work for commercial and some high-end residential. That's not home services. Is it a great business? Yeah, $1.7 million a year in SDE, and the guy's never had his job, and it's an off-market deal. I mean, there's a lot to like about this business. Been around for 20 plus years. That's outside the current scope. I'd like to see that be in the scope moving forward. So that's what really makes sense to me. So that's what I see as far as the expansion is. I could see it being more of a requirement for us, that the capital fund is involved in this deal if it's an off-market acquisition. I don't know where we'll get with that, but that's what we're looking at right now. And like I say, then the expansion of what that is, the types of things we're interested in.
I think
he's
James
talking to
has.
his. I think he's talking to his dog, but it sounds like me talking to my toddler. We're potty training. So, So my question, so this is the first I've kind of heard of the empower idea, right? So kind of obviously you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and you're even so like Kevin Cooper might even be one of the first people to kind of try this out, kind of, right? Like get bought back early almost, and then lead another endeavor. So really interesting, right? And I've always thought that the Acquira, like the thing that really appealed to me about Acquira was that it was a win-win, right? It was by no means cheap, right? And it's not free, you know what I mean? But the idea of you guys get to watch a business grow over 5 years and then have the opportunity to buy it back, right? And then we have the opportunity to sell it without having to go through that whole process, right? But you guys have you've seen the business, there's no hidden coffers, right? So I think that's a huge benefit to you guys, but it's also a benefit to us. And I think, as you said, Acquira is a really great value proposition, right? But then you also have to make money. So I guess my question is, with this almost like mini roll up type thing, but then headed by you guys, does that involve, say, Kevin retaining equity as CEO? It's almost like a search fund type deal, like, and maybe like a smaller amount of equity that he rolls over with performance bonuses, or how does that actually look, or do you even know, I suppose?
Um, I talked to Ty about this. I said, I don't know if I'm really going to get into Empower because that's what Hayden's doing, and it's off to the side. And I don't know if everybody's had the opportunity. Has Hayden been on one of these before? Everybody, those that have been to a workshop have been around Hayden. Brightest guy in the room. I don't care what room, who's in the room. He's the brightest guy in the room, and he's got a lot of plate spinning on this. So, definitive answer to that, no. The way it looks right now is yes. There'll be some equity participation, some equity rolled into this, at least initially. And I would say maybe within the first couple of tranches, even. After that, probably not, just for dilution, really, and not really a need. And I don't mean to say that in a greedy way, but not really a need for it at that point in time. But what we would see on it is probably, yes, just direct EBITDA bonuses, growth bonuses off of that, and the ability to do other, other things. And I leave that very loose because what you said there, James, I'm glad that you see this as something that's a core attribute of Acquire, and that is win-win. This is a core attribute of ours. It's a core mission for us. It's something we live by. That it has to be win-win. That has to make sense. So we're hoping that, again, if we have the right partners that come in, that we're open to all sorts of different business opportunities with them if they identify something even that's outside of the scope of what we currently do. But early on, yes, I see some retention in it. I see some equity participation in it. After the first couple of tranches, maybe not. And as far as what does timing look like on those, that's a Hayden question. If you were to ask him, a tranche a quarter and the thing's going to be worth $500 million in 18 months, I don't know if that's where we're at on that. But you know what? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Ian
So
mentioned to me that he was looking to close the first tranche by, I think, April. I think something like that.
yeah, so call it June. You guys don't know
Yeah.
that. I mean, everybody knows how that goes, right? So that's probably what I see, and probably not any kind of further consolidation into it until 2025 at that point. The velocity, would we like to have it quicker once we start running? Sure, and why not? But there's so many things to figure out with it. Um, there's a lot of moving pieces, this type of thing. But again, the biggest underpinning of it is once we have it up and going and it's operational, it's got enough cash flow in it to pay for it, we will get the ESOP up and rolling because that is the core underpinning of the entire thing. Is that to us is just direct alignment, and that's really Hayden's bigger view, right? Is he's one of those guys who says Hayden's not rich by any stretch. He really lives pretty modestly, and he's done well. But he's not driven by money. And I know this from the guy because I've had conversations where I'll say, hey, listen, I got two kids in college. I'm driven a little bit by money right now. I need to make sure I can pay the bills. He's not. His is, I want to find a way to get to a million employee owners. I want to be disruptive in this space. I want to show people that this is the right way to do it, and there's a better way to do capitalism because it's flawed right now. And I think a lot of us see that, right? I mean, it's not like we're all not trying to get rich, to make money, to be successful, to have the things that we want, but there's a better way. And I think he's identified a better way, and this is really something we're behind that we want to do for that reason, because I do think it's a better way.
I do too. Yeah. So one of the largest ESOPs, or if not the largest, Publix supermarket, they have like 200,000 plus employees. They're based here in Florida, right? Or at least started here. I don't know. They're probably further than that now, but you know what I mean? 200,000 plus employee owned ESOP. I mean, that's incredible wealth generation, you know what I mean? For just normal people, right? Which is
Yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah, I
they
think
love
it's a
where
pretty
they
cool.
love where they work because of what they've done for them, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's direct. That's win-win. That's win-win.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chuck, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, quick. I had another quick question. I just wondering about the deal funnel for Accelerator Plus. I like the idea of kind of shifting to a finder's fee at close. I feel like cash flow wise, that would be awesome for AEs. And I had a couple questions into visibility around the deal flow. I know that once you get under LOI, hopefully the odds are in your favor. You're going to close it on it for an off-market deal, but just should it fall through, is there a chance to kind of keep a pulse on what other off-market deals are in your vicinity, just so that should it fall through, you can immediately have a sense of, okay, I want to get after this other one, be able to shift gears quickly, just to kind of reduce the search duration for, should you have to fall to a plan B.
Yeah.
Just curious about that.
Yeah. How we present that is still something that Tucker's working with his team to get that put together. But again, the Accelerator Plus was identified, and this product was created because we did see those individuals who had capital right now, and they didn't have time to find the business. And honestly, many of them weren't necessarily going to engage in the accelerator model. It just didn't fit with what they wanted to do. And it was like, hey, if you could find a way for me to get to a business, I'm all in on that. So, we developed it. And is it profitable for us? Absolutely. I mean, is there a lot of moving pieces and expense to us as well, and third-party diligence also? Sure. But we're a business, right? We identified an opportunity, we put something into place, and it makes sense. Moving forward, I've been very vocal. I would love to get rid of it as soon as we can, because I'd love to move to a success fee model at close for a multitude of reasons. One of which is with the current Accelerator Plus model, we have A's who we sit down with and we identify where they're looking, and we're trying to look for those areas, and A's are waiting, right? There's this constant, hey, where's my deal? When's it going to happen? Where's my deal? When's it going to happen? And you can imagine you get 20, 30, 40 of those people. Wow, that's just a steady roar in the background, right? I don't really need that. And I don't mean to sound that way, but there's a better way. And to me, it's like, let us source in peace. And as we find something, we'll just turn around and say, here's what we've got, right? And then we go that route. To me, that's just makes more sense. So that is something we want to move to. But either way, whether it be that type of model, if we begin to move much more towards that, or the Accelerator Plus model that we currently have, back to win-win. If your deal falls through, we're going to be seeing what else we've got that matches as soon as we can, because you've already identified yourself as one of the top AEs because you moved through the system, right? You've got there, you've shown your ability to do it. And if you kill a deal, Gloria, I'm going to call this out for you right away. I know Chris, if anybody's dealt with Chris Mooney on the equity fund, Chris is a hyper intelligent guy with a tremendous amount of experience, and he runs the fund, and he's the individual that looks at these deals. When he understood that Gloria was willing to walk away from this deal, he immediately said, And that AE right there is on my list of somebody who I'm willing to give them more credence to the next deal because of the AE they are, because I know they're willing to walk away from a bad deal. And that's important to me as an investor. So you going through something where it falls apart, whether you walk away or for some other reason, you've identified yourself. So we want to get a deal to you, right? It's not that we're going to cut you in line in front of somebody else, wherever it may be, but listen, we're going to source deals all over the place, and oftentimes we're not going to have AEs in those areas. So sometimes we may have something in your area, sometimes we don't, but we're just going to be sourcing as fast as we can wherever they show up. And for you, like Colorado Springs, yeah, we're going to hone in on that as much as we can. And it's not to say it's going to be off market. It may be on that we find, and we've gotten a lot faster at those, a lot better at what we do around those. But yeah, we're always looking, because that's the hope. We're not here to say, hey, your deal fell apart. That's all we said we do. Congratulations. I hope the money spent felt worth it, because we know it's not, right? I mean, the whole point is let's get you to another deal and get the thing funded.
Thanks for the response, Brian. I appreciate that. Also, I had in my networking locally here, I sometimes come across other Main Street businesses for sale off market, coincidentally through just talking to CPAs who are, hey, I've got one of my clients is about to retire and he's going to sell his business. I'm just curious if there could be, just food for thought, a way for AEs, should they stumble upon an off market deal that doesn't fit their criteria, maybe it fits someone else in the cohort, in the community. Can we post that? Is there a way to kind of, I don't know, some modest broker fee or some way to kind of, if you can make that connection and a deal goes through, like, hey, here, appreciate it, thanks for the introduction, kind of thing. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know,
Ty,
thinking out loud,
actually, we'll talk about this. Let's talk about that piece right there, because yeah, that does come up, and let's find some ways to help on that. That's helpful for the entire community, and if there's ways for you to get paid as well, sure. I mean, now that's kind of group sourcing, right? It makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And sure, there are ways, specifically finder fees, direct finder fees. You can legally do that. If all it is a handoff, then yeah, there are ways to do that.
Cool. No, thanks.
We've got a couple minutes left. Does anyone else have a question?
Were there more
Yeah.
questions in chat? I see a few of them down there, but I said I'm too lazy to open it up.
Brian, quickly, so this is super exciting. I'm so excited to be a part of this group. So the off-market deals, right, especially once you had the partnership fully worked out, is that only going to be available to Accelerator Plus or like everyone? That's where I'm not clear.
It's going to be available to everyone, but it's going to be one of those situations to where if we identify these deals, and it's an accelerator person that we've identified that might be a good match, that's where we're going to talk about the success fee model of being able to get paid at closing. And again, we're a business, right? Let's talk. It's profitability for us. This isn't a way to extract more money. It's profitability, but it also offsets a tremendous amount of expense for us to do this. Like I say, we're absorbing the group that does this. It's not a cheap absorption. So we do have to find some ways to cash flow that endeavor. But yeah, that's what we're going to look towards is, listen, if we find a deal in Lexington, Kentucky, and we don't have anybody in Lexington, Kentucky in the Accelerator Plus model, but that's where you're looking, we're going to get in touch and we're going to say, here you go. We got a deal. Does this make sense? You go, great. We'll sign a contract that says, hey, I'm going to pay for task services, which is 25 grand up front, so that we can walk through this entire process with you. And then at closing, then we'll pay a success fee on that, and away we go. Again, success fee on those two, we're finding financing partners or solutions on that, so that it doesn't drain cash flow. We're also talking about the ability to even self-finance those things moving forward. That I'll take back right now, because that's not something we can do at the moment, but that's a desire for us down the road, because again, we want to find ways to make this win-win. And the financing isn't ways to leverage, make interest off of money we've charged. It's just, can we find ways to make this, again, win-win, more effective, draw out the time.
Yeah. Okay. And when do you finalize the absorption of that group?
Probably won't be done for another 18 months or so. but
Okay.
we're in the midst of doing it right now. It's kind of, I guess you would say, we're in the midst of the earn out portion of it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say a direct apology from me to you on the price of the accelerator. I've been pressing to increase it, increase it, increase it, and the only reason it's not a cash flow thing for us, it's just that it's a barrier to entry. If we charge $500 for this, we'd have a bunch of people in here that would be a waste of our time with no intention of moving things forward, and not the types of partners that we want to have. Right? If you spend, $10,000 to come into this thing, I have an expectation that you're committed to this, right? So my apologies for the cost, but now you understand the reason.
Yeah.
We actually had
Thanks.
that in the beginning with we had the Gauntlet was a free lead gen tool, and we realized that a lot of the people that came through that were not up to the task of acquiring a business by the end of it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think so I don't mean to butt in, but I think the idea of kind of like you said, taking the pressure off of the sourcing, right? Well, you know what I mean? So you sort, because you don't know how many businesses you're going to find, and you don't know where the heck you're going to find them, right? So when you have somebody in a certain area and they pay you $100,000 or whatever it is, 50 grand, and it's like it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be however long, right? And you just don't know, right? You don't know what business owner is going to be ready to sell, and if it's even the right business, the one that does reach out. Hold on, baby. Hold on. Hold on. Whoa. So your plan is kind of to go the opposite way, and I guess kind of what I'm getting at, and maybe he just answered that and I misunderstood it, or he just asked the same question. But so you have all these people who presumably signed up for the Accelerator Plus, right? That is the upfront fee. And so I'm assuming you have obligations to those people first. Do you have plans to take the deals that these people passed on to offer those to the greater community who for the success fee maybe sooner? Because I know you guys probably have a database of deals that are just kind of just sitting, right? I don't know how many or where, but I mean, just in general, right?
Yeah, and it wouldn't be so much pass on. I mean, if it's a pass, it's typically for a reason, and it's a reason that we would agree with, and we wouldn't pass it to you because it's
A different, yeah,
yeah.
right.
If it's a pass because it's too far from home or it's way outside my scope or whatever, yeah, absolutely. And again, the whole point for us is we want to get individuals in our ecosystem, the AEs, onto deals and funded, period. So yeah, however we can do it. So are those people a priority? Yeah, that's who we're searching for. But as you're searching, again, you're searching in Colorado Springs, and you turn a deal up that's in Oklahoma just because they've got a brother or they got a different deal. Who knows what it is, right? And this is where you end up saying, hey, we got something in Oklahoma and we have nobody in the Accelerator Plus in Oklahoma. Let's quickly look into the AE database and say, do we have a solid AE in Oklahoma? Let's talk to them. And that's where we're moving this thing forward. And you're hearing about a lot of new things. We're a small group. I think we're probably 30 people or so right now. So, man, we got plates spinning all over the place. And I got a bunch of half-done projects, right? I mean, we're trying to decide what needs to get done first and foremost. So this is a huge growth year for us. I like to say this is the year where we figure out how we do things. We know what we do. We're clear on what we do now. It's how do we do it all this year. So we're going to be putting finishing touches on things in 3 months on this project and 4 months on this project. So bear with us on some of these. But from the success fee side of it, that's more or less getting nailed down now. And within the next 30 days, it'll be very clear on how that's going to get rolled out to current AEs.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everyone. That's the hour. Some people have already reached out to me about the workshop. So I'm doing it first come, first serve because basically that's all the space we have. So if you don't hear back from me, that's why. But I appreciate the time, and thanks, Brian, for answering everyone's questions.
Yeah, happy to
Thank
have
you.
everybody here. You guys really appreciate it. You are the individuals that make this whole thing run, right? So we're also very interested to get feedback for you on the things that are working, the things that are not, what we can improve on, what we could offer. But you are part of the Acquira team that's going to move this thing forward into the iteration of the next stage, which again we kind of discussed as that empower model. I hope that that's exactly what happens for everybody, and that's kind of where we move to as a group.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Hey, have a great Friday, great weekend. Take care.
You
Appreciate
too.
it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.